Sono spariti tutti. Ok, buongiorno, good morning. I speak in English. Welcome to this webinar. It's a technical webinar to introduce ESG.IAMA 2025. Good morning, welcome. I'm using English because this is a recorded webinar that we aim to share also with people who will ask you to attend later, to understand which are the arguments that we are going to discuss today. So I apologize for my English, first of all, but I will try to open this session, this discussion, as I say, is a technical webinar with the target, with the purpose to help you to understand which is the purpose of the assessment. It means make you to understand which could be the interpretation of the questions that we are going to propose to you in the assessment of this year. After this technical introduction, there will be a short speech, a short discussion with Riccardo Realfonzo. Riccardo Realfonzo is the chairman of the Scientific Committee and chairman also of an important Italian pension fund.
Direttivo, ma siamo un po' tra coloro che sono sospesi.
Manuela, occhio che ti sentivo, ecco. There will be also with us other member of the Scientific Committee. And Riccardo Realfonso, that is also the scientific coordinator of for Asso Fondi Pensione. It means the Association of Italian Pension Fund. So, as I said, my role is to open this working session with very few words, and I ask Alessandro to help me in changing the slide. Come back just to the first again. As you see, there will be a background introduction. Then we enter in the novelties of this year assessment. And then we go deeply in the extraordinary area that is the part of the assessment that changes very much every year, and that is the characterization of the assessment each year by year. We expect also questions, but I suggest to use for that I don't know in English, you hold up your hand. Or you can write us later, and we will be glad to answer by email. Okay, Alessandro, go. So we start with the background. There are several slides that you probably know very well. What's ESG.IAMA? What is ESG identity and how it works? I don't read all the text, but I just underline that ESG.IAMA is the world's first quantitative sustainability ESG identity asset manager assessment solution. It means that it's a tool for the asset manager itself, because it can compare, can understand, can enter in which is really is ESG identity, and it's a tool for the system because there is a growing interest in knowing exactly which is the identity of the asset manager by players that makes fund selection. So which is the ESG identity is our definition. It means something that starts from the purpose, the culture, and end with the way in which the asset manager makes his offer to the market. And how it works is the way in which this assessment works. Okay, we can go. It's important to see which is the growth of the project. We start in 2022. It was a pilot project. And then we see this number. We doubled in the second year in 2023, and last year we have a special growth too. Bye, Ali. This is the countries of the asset manager. The asset manager of ESG.IAMA, as you can see, is all over the world already. Bye. Andiamo veloci, we can go faster. These are the users today, so you can see several pension funds and several banks already, especially two associations is the two main important association for pensions money in Italy, Assofondi Pensione and Assoprevidenza. And we are discussing with other, and I'm sure that this year some other user will enter. It's important also to stress, to underline that ESG.IAMA today is one of the cornerstones of Salone SRI. Salone SRI is the most important Italian event related to sustainable finance and one of the most relevant in Europe. And go on. Scientific Committee, as I said before, we have with us Riccardo Realfonzo, is the chairman of the Scientific Committee. He will explain you something later after the technical introduction. You can see that we have in the member all the most important association for finance in Italy. It means, so I say Riccardo for Assofondi Pensione, but we have also people from Sonime, Soreti, AIFI, Assoprevidenza, Forum per Finanza Sostenibile, Assogestioni, and ANIA. It means from insurance to asset manager and also network of finance distributor. Bene, good. Methodology is the same, is always the same. We have an assessment of several, I don't know exactly the name, but it's in the following slide. A lot of questions. We have 100 points total, theoretical, and then any question has some a value, and then we have the score, the final score obtained by the individual question for a theoretical maximum of 100 points. Experience, we can go on with this. This is the knowledge by which we start to develop and to improve each year our assessment. Go on again. Novelties, I spent a few words on these. This is the assumption of responsibility. This year you will receive aside of the assessment this document. We ask this because we think that is useful for the asset manager to underline and to understand who is the owner of the answering. It's important because ESG.IAMA today is an official, statement from the company. So we talked together with the Scientific Committee that it's a good step to give evidence to the responsibility of the file. This is the number. I said before that there will be a change. We are very proud of it. It's a result that we get still again with the contribution of Scientific Committee. You can see that we have in 2025 new questions, 26, but we deleted 68 questions, and the total question decrease of 21%. Is a very strong effort. And go on, Alessandro. There are reasons for that. We think that it's important to be short, to be easy to understand, to be understood, and this is the reason because we kept the number of questions. Sorry, we are not coordinated. The optimization, that the reason optimization. Go to the next. Yeah, this is the reason because of this cut, so optimization and continuity. It means that it doesn't matter if there are a certain number of questions. The purpose, the concept, the principia of the assessment are exactly the same. Go back. Thank you. How it works, I don't enter in that. Is a very technical aspect. Go to the following one. This is important because for the first time, this is a step that we decided together with the Scientific Committee too. We show which are the score for any sub area. You can see that you see the area here, but in the assessment you will see also. No, there are also sub area 5.1. Sorry, you see everything here. So it means that any part of the assessment has the total score related to the questions of that part. We talk that it's an exercise of transparency, and it will help to understand which are the share of importance that we give to one part or the other of the assessment. Okay. And then I mentioned it before, we will enter deeply in the extraordinary area. So is the area that change the assessment year by year. And this year the title is business ethics. I mean, the argument is business ethics. And we think that is the time for wondering if this is a strategic issue for the asset manager. And we divided it in business conduct, tax, politics, and social and artificial intelligence. I don't read the single sub-area because I pass the speech to Alessandro, and this way we enter in the single question of the extraordinary area. Alessandro, sorry for my English again. I try to be. I hope that it was clear enough.
Thank you, Luca. Hello, everyone. So basically, here we will enter.
Sorry, Alessandro, just to answer to a question: will this presentation be shared? Yes, of course. This is the reason because we are also speaking in English. We will present the webinar and the presentation.
Absolutely. Yeah. So in the next slides, you will see basically every question that will be in the 2025 edition of the extraordinary area. And then at the end, we will have a brief Q&A if you have any questions about those this new extraordinary area, or either you can also write us directly via email. So this is the business conduct sub-area. So the first question here, as suggested by the OECD guidelines for the multinational enterprises on responsible business conduct, we ask the asset manager if it discloses information on measures taken to embed policies on responsible business conduct issues into the enterprise's management and oversight bodies. Then with the second question, we ask basically the same thing, but to check if the asset manager monitors also if the invested companies does such a disclosure. In the third question, instead, we enter into detail and we ask the asset manager if they have a specific judicial strategy. So something similar to the provisions for the fiscal strategy under the GRI 207. So by judicial strategy, what is meant is something that outlines the attitude towards possible future investigations. Luca, could you maybe mute yourself because maybe there is a reverberation. Okay, thank you. So basically a strategy that outlines, as I said, the attitude towards possible future investigations, towards counterparts, and towards judges. So basically, to date, there is no GRI dedicated to this issue, but however, there are already examples where major corporations basically denied their ESG identity, purpose, and statements to support their positions before the courts. So in question 3.1, again, we ask also if the asset manager checks, monitors also, basically if it writes down in advance what attitude it will have against possible future investigations, legal cases, against the asset invested. So again, we go from basically what you will see usually here is questions that go over the corporate sphere of the asset managers and answer questions about its investments. So again, 3.1 is basically question 3, but specific on the investment side. Then question 4, we ask if basically there is a formalization in public documents or policies or statements or whatever about basically the aversion of the asset manager against the greenwashing, green ashing, and green bleaching. So for the ones who don't know, green ashing, basically, as Josko says, is the act of corporate management teams under reporting or hiding their sustainability credential in order to evade the investor scrutiny. So an example could be basically what is happening in a few states in the United States. So basically you hide your being ESG to avoid scrutiny or repercussions. While green bleaching is, it means when a provider of investment services or products that is basically green chooses not to claim it. So to avoid the extra regulatory burden and legal risks. So basically maybe you have a fund that could be easily categorized by the SFDR as Article 9, but you go simply with the Article 8 or maybe Article 6 categorization to avoid the extra regulatory requirements. If there is no green ashing statement or policy or whatever, with the question 4.1, we ask if the asset manager nonetheless developed a specific team or working group or committee or something that monitors the possible green ashing situations that might arise from the new political or regulatory environment. Here we go instead into the next subsection of the extraordinary area.
Alessandro, sorry, I just
Yes?
want to underline something that probably had to
Absolutely.
underline before. As you can see, the assessment tried to understand the behavior, the way in which the asset manager deals with some issues. And there is a side related to the way the asset manager itself does that thing, and we try to understand also if the asset manager considers the way the company in which he invests does the same thing. So we have two way of inquiry: the asset manager itself in his way of doing, and the way of doing of the company in which he invests the money.
Thank you, Luca. So here we go into the tax subsection. Here on question 5, we ask if the asset manager reports under the GRI 207 tax standard. If it doesn't, we ask if nonetheless it discloses publicly its approach to taxes in a similar fashion to the standard. So basically, if the asset manager reports its approach to tax, its tax governance, control, and risk management, and its stakeholder engagement and management of concerns related to tax. 5.2, we ask if the asset manager developed a tax strategy, which is something suggested by GRI 207, but not required. Basically, so the definition is it is a description of the organization's approach to tax and how it balances tax compliance with business activities and ethical, societal, and sustainable development related expectations. Question 6, this one is about the investment side, because basically here we ask if the asset manager developed a tax and transparency principle. So basically what we mean, we took as an example here the Norges Bank. Basically, it is a policy stating what happens if an invested company or to be invested company, basically it does aggressive tax strategies or doesn't report taxes right or so on. What happens basically? What will be the procedure that goes on with the asset manager? So question 7, we basically actually question exactly that to the asset manager, basically. So what happens if the investment company did not follow the GRI 207 tax standard or did not develop a tax strategy? So basically the answers are that an engagement procedure is activated, or basically what the asset is divested from Article 9 products, Article 8 products, Article 6 products, and so on. So the level of difficulty increases. 7.1 is successive to the prior, because it is about what happens after the engagement failed or after a predetermined amount of time. Again, if the company still doesn't report under GRI 207 or did not develop a tax strategy. Question 8 instead is about what the asset manager does if the invested company engages in aggressive and non-transparent tax strategies and planning. So again, the possible answers are similar to the ones before. And again, 8.1 is linked to it to basically a temporal time-linked aspect. So basically what happens if the engagement failed or after a predetermined amount of time, again, the company engages in aggressive tax strategies. Now we go into the subsection about politics. Here we ask if the asset manager have a public policy specific on its own lobbying activities of the asset manager, not the asset the company is invested. Question 10, we question basically if the asset manager has a stewardship policy. So, and basically if in that policy it has a specific section dedicated to the invested company's ESG lobbying activities. So what it does on those situations. Exactly with that, question 10.1 basically wants to understand what happens. The asset manager engages towards companies that lobby against the climate objectives. The asset manager engages towards companies that do not disclose their lobbying activities. And again, the same with the voting process. We want to understand what happens. Question 11, we ask, does this manager report the corporate political influence of itself as a company, its main KPIs, as UN raised suggested? So basically, this is, let's say, a kind of a report. So basically, question 9 asked of a policy about your lobbying activities of the asset manager itself. Corporate political influence is a report of what you actually did during the year. Question 12, we ask, basically, there is a list of possible international networks, initiatives, and pledges about sustainability. And we ask if the asset manager receded or stopped or reduced its adhesion from one or more of those. And last question about this subsection is if the asset manager has taken a clear stance over having its corporate ESG strategy and objectives not influenced by politics. So basically what we try to understand here is if the asset manager fully committed itself to not change its purpose, its objectives, and its actions because of external political factors. So it is not simply a an anti-bribery or corruption policy that everyone has. Now we enter into the subsection about which is called social. Here we ask if the asset manager have a specific figure to manage the dialogue with the stakeholders, with its internal stakeholders. Question 15 is about if the asset manager monitors also if the invested companies have a specific policy for the stakeholders management. So again, before we ask you, corporate side, how the asset manager does, and later on we ask if you do the same, if you monitor the same thing also about the assets invested. Question 16 is about if the asset manager has taken a clear stance in favor of DEI policies during 2025. Question 17 instead is about having developed a framework for identifying corporate actions affecting inequality. So basically, this is a type of, there is also an example here. This is a type of framework that evaluates the impact of corporate, basically helps to evaluate the impact of corporate actions on inequality for workers, communities, shareholders, consumers, and so on. So this is the last subsection, which is about artificial intelligence. So question 18, we ask if by the end of the last year, the asset manager defined a responsible artificial intelligence management policy. So what is the basically RAI policy, so responsible artificial intelligence policy? It is basically a document or statement or something that promotes the ethical use of AI in the areas of collection, management, and use of information. So basically, it is those principles consist of an approach to align the use of artificial intelligence systems with the company's purpose and values, and to reduce its risk while harnessing its potential. Question 19 is about, we want to check if the asset manager obtained the certification ISO about specific for artificial intelligence management systems. Question 20 is to understand what steps have been taken from the governance side for the correct adoption of AI. So basically, want to check if the asset manager established the interdisciplinary AI committee or defined principles for responsible AI use, established an AI framework and updating existing guidance, and so on. Those are all the possibilities as suggested by the BIS, Bank of International Settlements. And then the last question of the questionnaire of the extraordinary, it is about if the asset manager, again, monitors also the invested companies, if they have to a responsible artificial intelligence model and or certification ISO about it. So yeah, that's it. We can have the Q&A. You can ask us anything you want, or just yeah. So you're muted, Luca.
I just want to underline some points. As you can see, we are used to ask you the documentation. I mean, link documents is something that is very useful for us, and we need that in some qualitative question. You put the reference, the link of the document, because it's important for us to understand if it's true, or also which kind of interpretation you gave to the question. Just something.
Anna Stagnoli has a question. You can either ask it directly here or just write it down. What do you prefer?
You're speaking with me or with Anna? Sorry.
No, with Anna Stagnoli, because I see she raised her hand.
Può parlare?
Yeah.
Sicuro che può
Can
parlare.
you hear me now?
Sì, yeah, we can
hear you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I had some trouble with my audio.
No worries.
Is a general question from my side, also on the extraordinary part, but also on the ordinary that I assume that is the same of the other years, or maybe I think that could be similar as the last year. But for example, if not stated, clearly stated in the question, for example, on the second question that you show us, when you talk about, for example, on the monitoring, if the invested company disclose information on measures taken to embed policies on responsible business conduct. For example, I want to know if, and in general, also on the other question, if it's not clearly stated, could we have the reference of our practices? I mean, in this case, one of the practices that we act is the engagement with the companies. But even if is clearly stated, the procedure that we use in having engagement and the recording of the engagement internally, and then we have a report ex post, but we do not have a public record on the outcome of the engagement. If it's not clearly stated, we could also assume and use these kind of practices for the answer.
I'll leave you the answer, Alessandro. It means in which way we consider in some questions
public or not public, because
public or not public, and if something is not exactly stated in the answer we previewed, which is the way we act, Alessandro.
Yeah, basically, to answer that it is public, it must be explicitly stated somewhere. If it is not explicit, there should be 99% of the times also the possibility to answer, yes, we do it,
okay,
but it is not public.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. From my side,
You're
it's
welcome.
the only question at the moment, but I have to read more precisely the question.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sometimes also there is the possibility to enter in a specific situation if you are between two kind of answers. We find a way to understand which is your best solution.
Best fit. Okay. Okay, thank you.
I was remarking that we mentioned GRI in one of our questions. GRI is today overreplaced by European Sustainability Reporting Standard. Please consider that GRI is here just as a sample of what fiscal strategy could be. And in the number 3, in the question number 3, we go further and we imagine a sort of transposition of financial strategy in judicial strategy. This is a very new question. It's a very, strong question, but we think that the assessment is also useful for the asset manager to understand which could be the line in the future in which he can develop his governance. We try also to consider some of the, political scenario. Today is not an easy situation. We don't enter very deep in the non-ESG or some other issues like weapons for today, because it's very tricky and they are very difficult to be managed. But we try to understand, for example, if the asset manager has a position in relation to the alliance, in which today is very difficult. Some of asset managers are in a very difficult situation and a very difficult relation. Okay, if there are no other questions, I repeat, we are here to clear your question mark. In the future, you can write to us. We will share the presentation today or within tomorrow, and we will be very glad to clarify if something is not clear. I saw a question, what are the, then he stopped. Main change with last year. The main change are specifically in the extraordinary area, and the change in the ordinary area is related to the change of number of questions. It means that some of the most tricky questions we decided to conceal from the previous assessment, but we work also in the, how can you say, aggregation is correct. We try to put together several questions in a single question. That is the change, the main change in respect of last year. The principia and the concept and the purpose is absolutely the same. We try to understand the way the asset manager do his job, and which is identity from the sustainability point of view. Alessandro,
I see that also Anna Stagnoli again raised their hand, so I will.
Again, sorry, it's a quick question, but maybe I missed this information. So in this case, sorry for this. But when will be when we start the assessment? When
next
when
week
will be next week? And the way in which you submit us the question is always the same by a PDF to fill, or there is a tool, something like this?
Always the same. So there is a PDF to help you basically share the answers between teams, but at the end you need to upload the questions through Qualtrics. So you will receive a link. It is an online software where there you will put down your questions and actually send to us the final questionnaire.
And there will be the possibility to amend during the filling also some answer, or good the first answer.
Sorry, I didn't get you.
I remember that the last year the session have to be completed at once. You cannot save and then recover in a certain way.
No, basically how it works with Qualtrics, basically if you start the questionnaire on a specific computer, let's call it computer A, every time you close it and open it again from computer A, it will remember where you are, the answers you put down. If you start from a new computer, for computer B, you start from zero.
Start from zero. Okay.
Yeah, because there is no username. Basically, there is no specific account.
Yes. I remember this aspect, and I would be sure that would be the same. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Alessandro, there is another question. More details, what are in summary the main change in the extraordinary area?
Well, the extraordinary area last year
it's totally new.
It's totally, because every year the extraordinary is on completely different arguments, which we believe are the most, let's say, hot of the year, the most important, and so everything changed. So
it's the part of the assessment that will change every year. So this is the extraordinary area is business ethics, divided in several points: business conduct, tax, politics, artificial intelligence, and the other one, Alessandro, is in the next slide, and social. And all these questions are 95% new.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just to take to retake the discussion on what are the changes in respect of last year. No change in the ordinary area. It means that all the concepts are there. we try to aggregate questions. And if you go also on the slide related to the scores, Alessandro, please. We have this change. I mean, there will be transparency on the score area for each area and for each sub area. And I can say that also the score for areas didn't change so much. More or less are similar. I can say that's much more or less 10% respect of last year. So we try to save the continuity of the assessment. And extraordinary area is always 10% of all the score.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I don't know if we answer completely to what he asked. Maybe write us again if you want more detail. I don't know. I don't see any. Okay, perfect. He said it's good.
Okay. So I have the pleasure to use the last part of our webinar to introduce and to invite for his speech Riccardo Realfonzo. We can switch in Italian. Riccardo, allora con grande piacere, hai visto l'interesse e anche la partecipazione che c'è stata oggi in questo percorso. Io devo ringraziare te e a tuo nome il Comitato Scientifico perché ci ha dato una mano enorme nell'aggiornare e nell'indirizzare il percorso di ESG.IAMA e lascio a te con grande piacere la parola.
Grazie mille Luca e buongiorno a tutti. Sono molto contento insomma, di intervenire nell'ambito di questo webinar sulle modifiche introdotte a ESG.IAMA. Innanzitutto lasciatemi sottolineare il fatto che il comitato scientifico è stato varato, è stato introdotto nel progetto al termine dello scorso anno. È un comitato estremamente autorevole, ne fanno parte tutte le associazioni rilevanti del settore, quindi Assonime, Assoreti, AIFI, Assoprevidenza, il Forum per la Finanza Sostenibile, Assogestioni, ANIA e Assofondi Pensione. E in particolare ringrazio moltissimo tutti i componenti, quindi Margherita Bianchini, vice direttore generale e direttore area diritto societario di Assonime, Angela Maria Carozzi, responsabile ufficio legale e normativa di Assoreti, Innocenzo Cipolletta, presidente di AIFI, Sergio Corbello, presidente di Assoprevidenza, Massimo Giusti, presidente del Forum per la Finanza Sostenibile, Manuela Mazzoleni, direttore sostenibilità di Assogestioni, Alessandra Pasquoni, responsabile finanza in ANIA, e poi io sono Riccardo Realfonzo, il coordinatore del comitato tecnico di Assofondi Pensione. Ora, tutte queste associazioni di settore hanno ritenuto di voler dare un contributo al progetto ESG.IAMA perché riteniamo che sia, abbiamo condiviso l'opinione sulla rilevanza di questo progetto, la rilevanza a livello, penso di poter dire, internazionale, perché disporre di uno strumento sintetico in grado di misurare attraverso una matrice molto ricca e articolata di indicatori l'effettiva natura dei gestori finanziari sul piano della sostenibilità, insomma, in tutte le sue declinazioni, quella che abbiamo definito l'ESG identity dei gestori, è un obiettivo di estrema rilevanza. Di estrema rilevanza per fare chiarezza in un mercato evidentemente in cui come dire, manca uno strumento di questo genere, mancava uno strumento di questo genere. Il comitato scientifico così autorevole che ho poc'anzi ricordato, ha un compito rilevante nell'ambito del progetto, perché il comitato è garante in qualche modo dei principi di indipendenza e di coerenza nell'applicazione di ESG.IAMA. È attore dello sviluppo ulteriore della metodologia complessiva, affinché essa sia sempre più coerente, sempre più rigorosa, esaustiva, e quindi ha il compito di proporre modifiche al questionario, da discutere naturalmente con quello che poi è il segretario, anche questo ruolo, Luca Tessori è anche il segretario del Comitato Scientifico di ESG.IAMA, e con tutto il gruppo di lavoro che è messo in campo. E quindi, dicevo, ha il compito di proporre modifiche della struttura delle domande, nel calcolo, nell'algoritmo di calcolo dei risultati, nei pesi delle diverse domande, e suggerisce poi anche, può suggerire anche processi e tecniche per il controllo dei dati che sono immessi all'interno dell'indicatore, delle risposte che vengono fornite. Noi abbiamo fatto un lavoro, penso di poter dire, piuttosto consistente, con l'aiuto, con il supporto soprattutto di Luca Testoni e di Alessandro Fenili, e abbiamo svolto alcune riunioni, in particolare nei mesi di marzo, ma anche precedenti, ma poi a marzo e ad aprile, e l'obiettivo che ci siamo posti è stato quello di passare in rassegna tutto quanto l'indicatore nelle sue diverse dimensioni, e di cercare di comprendere quali semplificazioni potessero essere introdotte, senza perdere però lo spessore delle informazioni raccolte, contenute all'interno che portano a comporre evidentemente l'indicatore, e comprendere insomma, la coerenza delle domande, anche valutare il peso dei punteggi attribuiti alle diverse domande. Ora, è inutile che io naturalmente ripeta quanto abbiamo appena ascoltato nella presentazione molto precisa che è stata fatta poc'anzi. Penso di poter dire che l'obiettivo che ci eravamo prefissi in questa fase è stato raggiunto. Allora, innanzitutto noi abbiamo proposto che ci fosse una maggiore assunzione di responsabilità da parte dei soggetti che andavano a compilare il questionario, e quindi è stato introdotto, su nostra richiesta, questo documento di Assumption of Responsibility, no? Questo documento in cui si definisce, che deve accompagnare adesso il questionario compilato, in cui viene indicato chi ha compilato il questionario, e ci deve essere la firma di un responsabile della società, che dichiara che le informazioni fornite sono rispondenti al vero, sostanzialmente. E quindi questo è un primo aspetto che ci è sembrato opportuno introdurre, no? in questa fase. Poi abbiamo fatto un lavoro molto considerevole di discussione, di confronto, con una serie di riunioni, come dicevo prima, alla revisione del questionario. Devo dire che il giudizio di tutti quanti noi è un giudizio di un lavoro già precedente, eccellente, quindi abbiamo ereditato, per così dire, una struttura di questionario estremamente soddisfacente. Ci siamo però sforzati di fare un lavoro veramente molto certosino per andare a capire quali potessero essere delle domande che avevano un peso meno rilevante, quali potessero essere delle domande che già in qualche maniera erano, le cui risposte già in qualche maniera erano contenute all'interno di precedenti domande. Abbiamo rifinito il lavoro sui pesi. Alla fine come vi è stato mostrato, siamo riusciti a portare il questionario dalle 198 domande del 2024 alle attuali 156, e quindi abbiamo effettuato una riduzione di circa il 21% della mole di domande complessiva, che noi riteniamo consenta di mantenere, offrendo uno strumento più snello, di mantenere comunque il medesimo spessore di informazioni raccolte e di serietà delle informazioni raccolte della precedente edizione, anche con come dire, un ragionamento anche fatto proprio al decimo di punto sui punteggi, che potesse essere ancora più soddisfacente, ancora più calzante rispetto alla rilevanza delle domande poste. Quindi questo è stato un po' il risultato di questo nostro lavoro. Naturalmente è un lavoro, come dire, in divenire. Ora continueremo a riflettere, esamineremo i risultati che arriveranno, continueremo a riflettere su questo, anche su questa versione attuale, e quindi il comitato poi tornerà a riunirsi successivamente per valutare i risultati e per valutare ulteriori eventuali modifiche. Anche l'area extraordinary è stata naturalmente oggetto di analisi da parte nostra, e anche qui abbiamo trovato insieme al gruppo di lavoro diciamo di ESG.IAMA, ET.Group, quindi abbiamo trovato delle ottime intese per calibrare al meglio anche la novità di quest'anno che riguarda l'area extraordinary. Devo dire che appunto penso di poter chiudere questo breve intervento ringraziando molto tutti i membri ancora una volta del comitato scientifico, e ringraziando per la collaborazione naturalmente Luca e Alessandro.
No, siamo noi che ti ringraziamo, Riccardo, preziosissimo anche nell'attività di coordinamento e di guida dell'intero comitato. Colgo l'occasione per ringraziare anche chi del comitato ha avuto oggi la possibilità di collegarsi: Massimo Giusti del Forum, Manuela Mazzolini di Assogestione e Sergio Combello di Assoprevidenza. Vi ringrazio molto. Non so se avete il piacere di fare un saluto e dire qualcosa, liberi. Se no, valgono i miei grandi ringraziamenti e sinceri per il lavoro e il contributo che ci avete dato. E direi che siamo andati ai 50, vedo sono i 52. Possiamo chiudere. Noi avevamo l'obiettivo di stare attorno ai 45 minuti, siamo andati qualche minuto in più, ma direi che siamo stati bravi. Siamo a disposizione, ribadisco, per chi ci ha ascoltato, e poiché questa sarà registrata, anche per chi vedrà poi registrato questo webinar. Vi ringraziamo ancora dell'attenzione e del supporto, soprattutto per il comitato scientifico. Grazie Alessandro, ringrazio anche Giada, che non conosco, che penso sia una collega di Manuela, e ci presenteremo. Molto bene, grazie ancora a tutti, e a questo punto buon pranzo e buon lavoro. Ciao.
Grazie a tutti. Thank everybody. Goodbye.
Grazie a tutti.
Grazie, arrivederci.
Grazie, ciao ciao.